Picks and bans are happening now for game number 3. It's Splyce against Dig, 1-1. So best of 3 now in this long set that's already gotten started. Achilles will be the first ban as Splyce are in that first pick spot. And so we'll see. Xbalanque has been one that's been prioritized here so far. We saw Yorm get banned out by Dignitas. We saw the King Arthur be banned away as well. Will this Jormungandr make it through is another big question.
I don't expect it to. Dignitas don't really want to deal with it.
But they got to ban King Arthur.
Dignitas, they do actually.
Whoa!
But it's
Splyce.
Splyce.
Do it, so.
Splyce did it in game number 1.
That's right.
Actually, they banned away the Achilles and the Arthur, surprisingly enough. But not surprisingly enough, knowing that Divios doesn't really care what he plays at the end of the day.
And I'm starting to think that that might be a legitimate weakness. I wonder why they don't prioritize this King Arthur.
Well, the thing is, they want Merlin more than they want Arthur, right?
Sure.
So if they don't ban away Arthur,
then when they pick Merlin,
then they're going to have to take either Merlin or Arthur. Then they pick Merlin, and then Dignitas has Arthur, and we've seen what happens when Variety gets Arthur.
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you agree? Would you prioritize Merlin over the King Arthur right now? I felt as if it's Merlin who it's a little bit easier to deal with than the King Arthur.
It's hard to say because I would want to see the full draft before I kind of give that answer. I think that Merlin late game is better than Arthur late game, but early to mid game, I would rather have an Arthur.
Okay, so if you're depending on maybe where your team wants to play at, and maybe that's the idea. Splyce does often take games late. They're not afraid to play slow sometimes, so maybe that's why they value this Merlin, especially if it's something Moswal's really comfortable on. Remember, they used to prioritize his op wash a lot when it was something that he was comfortable on. So if that's the idea, make sure Moswal's feeling good, then I get it. Get this Merlin.
I love this Fafnir-Jingwei combination from Dignitas. Jingwei has been prioritized by Splyce so far in games 1 and 2. So taking that off the table from CycloneSpin, we're kind of seeing where he's going to go as a result. Hachiman is available. When it's not Jingwei, normally it is the Hachiman. But keep in mind, he has been known to play some other unconventional picks in that lane.
Yes, he certainly will. If he feels the need to, or if he sees it being good. He was one of the first ones to prioritize Xbalanque oh so long ago, back in Season 5. And I, at that point, was kind of critical of some of his god pool, but it turned out he was just ahead of the curve. Yeah. And then Xbalanque became strong in some of his other pocket picks too. So I trust CycloneSpin to be someone who recognizes what's good.
Game 1, Splyce had a lot of success on Pele for Cyno with his aggressive glass cannon build, so I'm expecting more, maybe solo lane pressure this time around. If they're going to pick Hades, no, not going to be Hades. Not seeing much Athena so far in Season 6 with only a 2% pick rate.
You're so right. That makes me think that it might not even be for Aror. Not only does Athena not super feel like a god that Aror would like to play, but like you said, she hasn't been that prioritized. So maybe this is Divios flexing it.
He's kind of going back in the time machine of the solo lane picks, honestly, because Athena was like the #1 go-to pick in that role. Hades was close in the top 3 position as well. So he's kind of throwing Dignitas' curveballs.
It certainly looks like he's got him thrown for a loop here as Zeus is hovered now for Dignitas, and they're going to lock that one in. So even though he is stationary, that's a ton of damage. Maybe the idea is that when it's clear Splyce is about to initiate, just drop the ult, man, and hope that you can just out-damage him.
When you dash taunt, it's kind of a telegraphed initiation. Zeus is going to drop that Lightning Storm. It doesn't necessarily have to always drop the ultimate as well. It could just drop the shield, look for a bounce off of it, and that makes it a little tricky for Splyce to figure out the angles they have to approach after the Athena engage. Doesn't matter if it's Aror or Divios because they have to worry about that chain lightning that's about to hit the Athena.
I do like the Athena with Merlin, though, because Merlin has a lot of abilities that kind of sit in place over time. And so Athena can keep you stuck inside it. You know, whether he's in the fire stance and it's the flames, or the blizzard and ice stance, or Arcane is all about keeping you locked down. That's not bad synergy at all.
People forget about the Arcane stance, but yeah, if you kept in that orb for long enough, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. Fire is probably the highest DPS count, considering that it's stripping away protections as well.
I think so too, as Hades is banned. Dignitas then not sold on where this Athena is going just yet. They even might be believing that it's support. They banned the Hercules as well, not going to let Splyce have that same sort of flexibility and ambiguity they were working with so well in games 1 and 2. They'll have to figure something else out for Aror.
I'm surprised that they don't just straight up ban Hunters, knowing that CycloneSpin doesn't have anything available quite yet. They could have taken away the Hachiman if they wanted to, maybe the Freya. could be another one, but instead they want to strip away Splyce's identity with what they've been showing in games 1 and 2.
And that's a good point, because that's what Dig has done up till now, is they've kind of banned the safer stuff. Like, we know for sure that Cyno's pick hasn't been picked yet, so we'll ban junglers or something like that, even if they don't know about the flex picks. This time, they weren't, it seemed like they were more willing to gamble on where the picks were going. And we'll see if it works out as Qvofred comes in, and this feels like a pick Aror would play. So I'm still not 100% sure where everything's going. This could be either one of them.
If that is an Artemis pick, it's going to be very scary because there is a lot of crowd control on Splyce's side. Merlin is going to apply slows with Gem of Isolation, Qvofred with the Tremors. He's got 2 stuns as well, Athena taunt. So this Artemis pick could mean that there's going to be a lot of pressure in that duo lane, but looking for more team fights. I like the idea of the Hoi as well, between ricocheting from the Qvofred walls.
Yes, this feels a lot like locking them down in our damage, whether it's the Athena or the Qvofred. They now have so many sources of this sustained damage in an area that Dig are going to be in a lot of trouble, especially if you consider like Zeus without the CC immune ultimate.
Yeah.
Hurriwind's going to need to be perfect on his beats timers.
And not only that, when you're dealing in team fights between Dignitas and Splyce, they're looking for the Zeus ultimate, so you can overlap that with a Hoi ultimate,
right,
kind of preventing Dignitas from really following up from Zeus.
That's right. Normally, Zeus is the one that cuts off a path and says you can't come through here. Well, Splyce can kind of match that a little bit if they bring down these suns. Very interesting. We don't see a ton of Hoi anymore. Speaking of lacking CC immunity in the ultimate, he's one of those that also has that problem, a little bit rooted when he casts it, and his early clear can struggle some in lane, but Splyce not worried about that. If he's left alone over there, he's pretty good in the 1v1.
I'm still not sure where this Athena Qvofred is going.
It's up in the air, isn't it?
I kind of think it's still going to be Qvofred in the duo lane, simply because you have better clear with the Tremors, as long as you don't get canceled right away. Fafnir could do that potentially with a hammer since you are a sitting duck, but it's an 8-second cooldown anyway with the Tremors, so you could just go for round 2.
Yeah. Shout out to my man Left. He's a big fan of this Qvofred over there in the duo lane when you're playing the Nest support, and the Tremors are, as you said, real strong clear early. And so Tyr comes out. Ooh. So this is interesting. If it is Qvofred and solo, then I guess Tyr has pretty good interruption with the Fearless. Maybe that's part of it?
That's part of it, I guess, but I think most of it comes down to keeping this Merlin in check. You can blink Fearless. Once the beats comes out from Merlin, you're going to follow up with a Lawbringer.
You can keep up with that flicker pretty well.
That's right. Moswal is going to have some difficulties.
I think you're right. So just Tyr is a strong pick at keeping up with this Merlin as well. So all around, I think these are 2 pretty good drafts. Dignitas definitely looking to try and play around this Ratatosker right through levels 5 through 9. That's when they're really looking to see if they can get ahead. But Splyce, when they group up, that's scary to me.
It is, but I'm loving the global pressure from Qvofred's Ratatosker. Right. They didn't do well with it in game number 1, I think, because of Variety's Hobwa necessarily. You couldn't match the Hades specifically, but the Ratatosker now with the Tyr should have more solo pressure.
Should have some pressure. We'll find out here in the game. Splyce against Dig. Game number 3. Let's get it over to F.Nagro.
Thanks a lot there, John, and totally. And as we look at these drafts, a very different story. Game number 1 and game number 2. 2 is an adaptation to game number 1. We've got this engine, we've got this comp, and we're going to switch some certain things in and out. Here, a complete change around. This Qvofred, this Athena, which I bet is solo for Divios. I think this is going to be a very different world, and it will be. Aror on the Qvofred support.
Another early blink for Aror as well, and I really like this Zeus pick for Hurriwind because Zeus is one of those characters that can really prey on you if you don't have defensive teamfight relics early on. You really could use a shell or a sprint anytime you're going up against Zeus in the early game, and you know Auror's been going for blink, so you can punish them for that a little bit, but it does also put him in a spot where he has to be very careful about where he's positioning. Auror's going to be all over him in the early game.
Another aggressive support. Last time, Hercules was more focused about displacement. Pull them, push them, get them out of where they want to be. Now, it's kind of the opposite. Trap them in place. Well, they might want to be here, but they don't have an option to leave. Aurora's going to lock them in. Divios is going to taunt them in. Moswal is going to vortex them in. That's what we're looking for when we're looking at Splyce. A lot of lure up somebody into the bad spot and then keep them there until they explode. Dignitas, they got Zeus.
They got Zeus. They got good area control with, with this Ratatosker as well. On top of that, they've got great CC potential with the Rat and the Tyr and the knockup from Jingwei and the hammer from Trixtank. That's a lot of CC that Splyce definitely have to respect. But you're right. Almost all of the damage this game is going to be coming by way of Hurriwind, and how well can he stay alive in these compositions. That's always the question with Zeus comps.
Yeah.
How long does Zeus live? That is really the primary question in most instances. And for that exact reason, I'm a little surprised that Trixtank goes Sprint instead of Shell in the early game. I mean, Sprint will still get Hurry out of some bad spots, of course, but I think the Shell to stop some of that burst damage coming from Cyno may have been a little bit more helpful.
Duo lane on the solo side of the map, as our supports have joined their solo laners for games 1, 2, and 3. Going in either direction. Divios here on the Athena solo. Much different story as she's not going into the Warlock staff, but still wants some help clearing wave number 1 or 2. So Auror's going to be here. Also, for what it's worth, the damage coming out of Cabrakan Athena at level 1 and 2 is pretty high, and there is kill potential here.
A little bit, and Variety actually just got his Fearless stunned out mid-cast.
Yep.
Didn't land on Divios, and it wouldn't have been enough damage for the kill, but would have certainly been an annoyance for Divios. But he's got Guardian's Blessing this time around, so he's not looking to last at the waves. That means that Aror hanging around makes it that much easier for him to use his abilities and then just let Aror clean up those stacks for him. He's already got quite a few Guardian's Blessing stacks already, so good teamwork between those two. And it's, again, just about making sure that you're getting yourself towards the mid, not even the mid game, it's really just out of the hyper early game as fast as possible.
Last time around, we saw kind of a hybrid build. Just the Warlock staff alone is enough for me to say hybrid build, because it's got a ton of mage power on it. But I think Divios might bring a little bit more classic solo lane Guardian build this time around. Maybe a Void Stone, but nothing raw power like a Warlock staff or a Bancroft or anything like that. Probably much more traditional here. But one of the big things about Athena, and we were talking as the picks and bans went through, nothing really changed about Athena. I don't think she's meta-dependent. Taunt, Global Ultimate, always relevant. Last year, top pick, top ban. Now, sure, there are other more exciting top picks and top bans, but we don't even see her down 4 or 5, so we just haven't seen her played much.
No, I don't know that we've seen her played at all, really. And you're right, it is a little bit odd, but that's the natural flow of metas.
The ebb and flow of characters.
Yeah, it just happens. It's natural and nothing to be worried about.
Aurora looking for the backline stun on a Hurriwind so he can't get involved in the 2v2 in the mid lane. Knockup is good, and Cyno, Moswal, Aurora, the 3-man joust team in the mid lane, take first blood for Splyce.
The idea there is that Cyno has no beads, so let's jump in, hammer stun him, blink, rat stun him, and he should basically die off that. But the rat stun was just a little bit off the mark that time from Qvofred. That kind of opens the door for the turnaround and another great CC chain. Aurora stun into knockup into Vortex pull. That Vortex is really hard to guarantee without previous setup, and Moswal's done a great job, as did Hurriwind in the last game, of being very patient with Vortex and using it as more of a CC continuation than an initiator.
Combo to the core. Splyce one more time, just combining elements of different characters. And I think that really is what elevates them to the next level, is they play this game where they do the same thing as everybody else, where they get a strategy, but they compound that with the character synergy, I think, better than other teams do. The character synergy for sure. And it's so impressive the way it comes out in games, because also players like Aurora and Divios are the kind of guys that are going to hit those combinations and those CC chains really, really effectively.
Their teamwork is nearly unmatched, and that's what most World Championship teams have in common, is that they work really well as a unit. And that's why I get so excited when I watch a team like Dignitas, that's pretty new together, start working very well together as a unit, because that is usually a sign of very, very good things to come. And also a sign that is so anti last year's Dignitas, isn't it? Where that was a lot of our criticism throughout the years, was they don't always do that super well.
Well, there's the trap that we wanted from out of the Cabrakan, and Moswal takes down Hurriwind despite the rainstorm. Dignitas now looking for the answer back as Rat's in the air, misses a roar, but he gets hit with the Nut Blast, and that's going to be enough for the Rat. Cyno takes care of Trixtank. It's a 2 for 2 so far. Double kill for Qvofred, and a 3 for 2 as Dignitas even the game up with Splyce.
Great dive there from the double Guardians. Splyce. Dom is losing it. over here. It'll be okay, buddy. We'll get through it. But that's the whole combo, right? Is Cabrakan into Athena. The blinks really synergizing very well there for Aror and Divios. But Hurriwind does his job. He gets his damage off in that situation. That's all you can do. That's all you can do, man. You okay?
It's just a really big engagement. Kind of threw me off.
And now down goes the drink. I mean, the rap goes next. We're scrambling a little bit here, but that was a really good response from Dignitas as well. That again, Hurriwind does his job, gets his damage off, but then Qvofred does what he needs to do and cleans up that fight pretty nicely. That even Ataraxia rotating in and getting a hand in that means that he sets himself up for some success. And even though that's Hurriwind a little bit behind, he still gets 2 assists in that fight.
That's the key.
And Ataraxia gets a little bit of extra farm by getting a kill and assisting himself. So it's the right idea from Splyce. It just took them a little bit longer. Hurriwind's positioning was good enough that it baited Aror deep enough into the tower where it caused some problems for Splyce in the end.
And as I said, Hurriwind's damage getting off is the biggest key there for Team Dignitas, because that's a foreshadowing of what Zeus in this composition will do. You have to all-in Zeus, and then he all-ins you, and even if he dies, somebody else will die. Now, as he gets more and more items and more power, well, he might actually live because he detonates before anything happens.
Oh, hurry.
Take 2! And Divios gets the kill this time after Aurora traps him in one more time. Cyno knocked up not once, not twice, but thrice. As Qvofred lands from the sky, so it's a trade-off this time. Mid laner for jungler, a little cleaner from Splyce. But Aror makes, you know what's fun about Aror? Playing these gods like Cabrakan, it looks like it's a super meta pick. He's in the right spot. He knows exactly where that wall is going to go.
Yep.
Keep in mind, it's been changed. It's a bigger target now, and I hate to say it, but I think Hurriwind was almost caught by surprise in that with that jump.
I mean, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
You just don't have the movement speed to get away from the extra movement speed that Cabrakan 1 gives, and a blink, and the range of that ultimate. You feel for him, man. As great as the peel was from Dignitas in that last game, there's not a lot that even Trix can do. Basically, as soon as you see that Athena ult start channeling, he needs to put him in combat is the only way that you can do it. But even then, that's sometimes not enough. It's tough.
I forgot about that emote.
The bush?
Yeah, he's just in a plant. Oh, man. Yeah, I forgot about that. I legitimately surprised me. Actually forgot about it.
It's a classic, then.
An exciting early game, an entertaining one at the very least. We're 8 kills and 9 minutes deep. The kills are split in 2. Splyce, I don't even want to say trailing. They're 700 gold down. That is mathematically a lead, but game-wise, really not all that much. Builds coming out pretty standard, I think, from everyone, as you would expect. Some speed boots in the jungle. Some breastplate of valor there for Divios. No warlock step this time around. Hades and Athena do largely different things, and I think that's why we see a more power-focused build coming out from Hades as opposed to Divios now on the Athena. Just give me my top.
Surprised that CycloneSpin's getting the red buff over Moswal. All the fighting's been in the mid lane. There really hasn't been any fighting at all in duo.
I wonder if this is the signal that we might see a gank in the duo lane, that CycloneSpin has red buff now. But
or you could look at it the other way and think of it as a deterrent, right?
Sure.
All right, all the fighting's been in mid. That's good for CycloneSpin. Let him get level 1,000,000. Give him the red buffs to dissuade Qvofred from going over there. Might be a thought.
He's level 11, you're right. I mean, that's tough for him to gank, but he's got Crusher online, so that's enough damage probably where he shouldn't have to worry too much about how that gank might end up going. I don't know, I guess Moswal's damage hasn't really been that relevant in these mid ganks because it's just been all Guardian damage. Aror and Divios do enough by themselves by way of base that can kill Hurriwind. And that, again, is where I think that early shell may have been the better call for Trixtank. If Hurry can get a detonate off, it goes a lot better.
Cyno's going to kill Qvofred before he can do anything.
Again,
Very
it's all
quick.
it's all Aror.
Very quick. Very quick. And Aror, yeah, he's certainly bringing the control here. I've really enjoyed the Kabrakan doing, because a lot of times you see these oddball selections, and they're just kind of occupying space. Kabrakan is doing Kabrakan things there. As Aror tanks the tower, traps a player, stuns them, guns them.
This is Auror's ideal game, where he
Yes.
just gets to really anger the enemy mid laner.
This is... Hindu always talks about how annoying it, you do too,
Yeah.
how annoying it is to play against Aror in ranked.
Yes.
And this seems like that.
Aror, I once asked him to describe his, how he wants to be viewed by other players, and his answer was annoying.
And then he definitely left.
Imagine wanting that. And he does.
I can't imagine.
Really
wanting
badly.
that.
And he's really good at it. I love Aurora as a person. One of my favorite pros to talk to and hang out with. And playing against him just makes me want to pull my hair out. And he wouldn't have it any other way.
No, that's how he likes to play. It gets under the other team's skin. Also, if you're playing annoying, you're also playing like... He likes to bring legitimacy to like troll strategies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's troll? Let me show you it's going to win on the world's largest stage, and how bad will you feel when you lose to Hades solo? Like, that's what Aurora's saying over here. Very, very, very funny. Talented dude. And it's funny, he plays Magic very similarly. He wound up being one of the best Magic players last month on the arena ladder, hitting Mythic and everything. His approach to all games very similar, and he seems to have success off of it, so certainly not going to shake it for the world champion. And that's why I was excited with this roster when they first announced. I think the Aurora Devios combo is really scary, and CycloneSpin in that group as well, for just going, let's do weird stuff and make people mad at us. And all three are like, yes, please, with extra.
And Cyno's just so mad all the time.
Every moment.
That he wants other people to feel the same way he does. So he just wants them to be his opponents.
And then, as Moswal said in his interview, I'm just here to press 4 and live.
Yeah, that's really it. Yeah, that's Moswal's whole role on this team, and he does it pretty well.
Interestingly enough, a very different play style here on the Merlin.
I'm sorry, I have the funniest story to tell about Cyno. We were hanging out a couple days ago, and we were talking. We were with a couple other players as well. We were talking about, like whether or not people call each other by their gamer tags or by their real names.
Yeah.
And someone called him Brooks. That's his real name. He goes, "Don't call me that." And he was like, "Well, what do your parents call you?" And he goes, "MVP." It's just so funny, man. I couldn't handle it.
Cyno, that makes a lot of sense.
I love it. He's so, like, that role just fits him so well.
Gold Fury will be the focus of Splice right now. Trixtank, Hurriwind, Ataraxia in the immediate area. Solo and jungle over there in the mid lane. Enough presence to make Splice double guess it. Coming right on back, though. Just dancing around this area.
This is still a fine fight, though, for Dignitas, because Hurriwind just hit his big power spike. He did the same build yesterday with the Rod of Tahuti rush in the mid lane. I do think it works pretty well on Zeus. It's slow, and when you have 3 deaths already, it's not great, but once you get to this point even, you feel great about where you are.
Moswal's in trouble. Bede's already expended. There's the jump from the rat. The blink is down, and the Moswal is going to go down because of it. Great showing from Splice as they answer back on a Qvofred. Now a 1-for-1, but a fearless power cleave combo again. But guess what? Cyno answers back one more time. 2-for-2. Cyclone takes care of the tank. And it's a 3-for-2 in Splice's favor.
Good knockup, though, from Ataraxia. CC chain is there on the Divios, but Variety just can't quite finish it off. Cyclone trying to chase down Ataraxia now is going to need the ricochet of time in order to get it done, and does not. But
he almost had it.
Gotta give him credit where it's due. Cyno just had a great fight right there for Splice, because he knows that Moswal's in trouble. That was absolutely the call. The Variety's going in on Moswal. He gets beads. Then Trixtank's going to get the leap. Then now it's Qvofred's time to get in there and finish him off. But Cyno plays it perfectly. He's able to get the return kill guaranteed. And then his pathing, instead of coming into the jungle and coming up towards the fight like most people would, he keeps coming up the lane, wraps around, and jumps all over Hurriwind on just from with that volcanic lightning. And Hurry's got nowhere to go. Does so much damage to him right away. Cyno's assassin instincts still really resonate with me. It reminds me a lot of adapting in the way that he likes to play fights. Patient.
He just reads them so well.
He's a more willing to die adapting. That's the way I look at Cyno's playstyle. He's willing to get in there and end up sacrificing himself for the good of the team fight. He's not as selfish of a player, and I'm not saying that as a negative. I think that adapting selfishness is a reason that he's the GOAT in the jungle.
I mean, that's that Mamba mentality.
Exactly, and that's such a big thing for him, and it's definitely not negative for him. But Cyno's just a little bit more team-oriented as a player, but still has those same level of instincts.
I mean, you've got to. I understand that he's going to help the squad out a little bit more when it comes time to sacrificial plays and stuff, but he still wants his mama to call him MVP.
That's right.
Dignitas looking at the Gold Fury, being taken down, now 30. Could be a hard stick, but it won't be. Splyce now looking for Ataraxia. The knockup sends Aror over the wall, but he still does the damage to the Hunter anyway. Not the play that Splyce thought they were going to get, and now Dignitas looking for the re-engage.
Great Fearless from Variety, brings both tanks in danger zone. Good taunt onto Ataraxia, and Hurriwind gets the job done, though, for Splyce. A double for Divios, as now Qvo's in some trouble to Cyclone.
The Variety's chasing down Cyno, and will hit him with the bad side Fearless. Divios rushes out, and it should be just a disengage. Divios winds up with a double kill in that engagement off of a great taunt that his teammates provide a ton of damage for. The Athena really working out there. The Zeus working out there, though, as well. Big boy damage coming out of Hurriwind. Again, he falls 0-5-3, but that's the type of slashdown that can be deceptive. Again, we're looking at the Gold Fury.
Down to half. Variety's here. He gets stunned. Good commit, but Moswal takes half his health right away. Variety never gets a chance to change stance, though, and Cyclone puts him down. Trixtank out of mana. This Gold Fury's going to go down for Splyce.
Divios zones out 2. Gold Fury, the black and yellow. Can't say that. 18 minutes in, and we've got 19 kills. Splyce have 12 of them. They've got a 2K lead. They've got a 2K lead for both gold and experience. And looking cute, feeling cute for the defending world champs this time around. Dignitas, you know, it's interesting. I feel like Dignitas are they want a game 2 of each composition, because Splyce have brought one strategy for game 2, and now a different strategy for game 3. And Dignitas are having trouble kind of reacting to it.
It's just been the Dignitas pick Zeus, and Splyce go, we'd love to kill you a lot. Thank you for picking this.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, I mean, the 05, I really don't have a problem with it for Hurriwind. What is he supposed to do against this composition? He's designed to just get his damage off, and as long as he's doing that, he's doing his job. And he's gotten his damage off so far. So he's been playing fine by my estimation. Now that Trix has Shell, that is going to be much better for Hurry in these fights. And look at how far back Hurriwind is right now. I mean, he is really worried about committing to any engagement.
He's building the hide.
Yeah, once he finishes off Hide of the Urchin, which I think is actually a really smart option from here.
Same.
It means that he's going to have a lot of trouble killing the tanks. He's going to be really hard at killing Aurora and Divios. But he's going to get a lot of protection because he's getting health and prots all at the same time. And if Dignitas start winning fights, he's going to become really, really tanky, really, really fast. And from here, you just go Obsidian Shard and let your base damage and Rod of Tahuti passive do the work for you.
Splyce loses a tier 1 tower as Ataraxia is walking up the left side, and Qvofred's going to join him. So they're going to lose tier 2 as well. The problem is Splyce isn't really doing anything. They're not getting a fire. They got a pyro, but who cares? They might get this tier 1 on the right side, but even that's going to be a stretch. Ataraxia takes the dual lane for nothing. That is an oversight by Splyce for sure.
Well, Splyce still going. They're not done yet on this side of the map. Variety doesn't have teleport either, so he can't really back and reset and get there. Hurriwind isn't rotating over. Now Splyce is done, and that's certainly a win for Dignitas. They got both towers in left, a tier 1 tower in mid, and look at the big dip in XP and gold that just went in Dignitas' favor. It's not just the towers, it's that Ataraxia was getting free farm. Qvofred was stripping away jungle. Hurriwind was getting free farm. That's all equally, if not more important than getting the actual structures down themselves. Great map pressure by Dignitas. And understanding the power spikes where Splyce are right now don't really allow them to go for Fire Giant with tanks in front of them. It's not enhanced, but they just don't have the damage to do it quite yet. Let's just let them group up and take what they want to take. we'll get more across the map. Really,
Yeah.
really smart there by Dig.
Pyromancer, 100 gold for the team. There was a 3,000 gold lead, 2,500 gold lead for Splyce. That's pretty much negated now.
Yep.
So just really, really, as I said, an oversight by Splyce. Nicely done by Team Dignitas. And we're essentially tied up here, folks, at the 21-minute mark. Splyce have territorial control of the Fire Giant, but Qvofred can always find his way to the back line.
Now Hurriwind has more XP than Moswal because Moswal was quad splitting waves in right where Hurriwind was solo pushing mid waves by himself. Hurriwind backs and finishes off Height of the Urchin and gets Obsidian Shard 2, so he can actually start dealing relevant damage towards these tanks in these fights. That was a huge push for Dig. And Splyce starting to feel it slip away from them a little bit. They're going to pull Fire Giant just to try and get something going in their favor.
Yeah, they're just looking to stoke the fires, quite literally. Shout out to Vulcan.
Yeah, there's no ball in this game.
Just trying to make it happen. Make somebody do something. Problem is, they did it to Cyno.
Whoa.
They're doing it back to Ataraxia. CycloneSpin. And the enemy hunter just falls. 5-shot? 4-shot? He building crit as well?
No,
Not
just
quite.
I think he double bounced him, and Nate just a little bit late on the beads, took too much damage, ended up beadsing, and then dying mid-dash
Oh,
animation.
yeet. Monster.
Beast. And Cyclone just has these sorts of games sometimes where he's a little, he did his job, but nothing that really spectacular.
Yeah.
I think CycloneSpin deserves a ton of credit for Splyce's World Championship because remember that the one game where Splyce ends up really far behind and then Cyclone's playing Freya and just rotates in and wins the game for them. I don't know that they win that world title without him.
Definitely one of the more consistent players in the league, I think. He's always able to do his job. Fire Giant leashed as the 5-on-4 is now paid attention to variety. He'll jump away. And as you said, Aggro, just not enough damage here for Splyce to really find the kill onto the Fire Giant. They have the Merlin, but he's just not doing it.
I mean, now Moswal's getting to the point where he can start doing it. His 2-and-1 have been maxed for a little bit. He's got Obsidian Shard now. You can start dealing relevant damage to these objectives as you continue to get items. But there's no Fafnir this time. Ho Yi not quite as good at dealing damage to the objectives, and no crit build for him. Again, this particular build very, very good against players, not quite as good against the objectives themselves.
This objective a little bit squishier. 20-10-5, Splyce get the Gold Fury. Looking for a fight after the fact. Hurriwind gets locked up. He's going to get stunned, drops the ultimate. Aror goes elsewhere. Qvofred comes to help, but Moswal takes care of his direct opposition. Variety with the flank, finds one. Good knockup from Ataraxia, who knocks himself up. Safe and sound. Aror, not the same. Does turn around, get a stun. And Auror's going to be out. Nice ejection by Splyce. They kill Hurriwind again for the 6th time. But really, nice team play from Splyce, and they get the gold.
That's the first one where I feel like Hurriwind overstepped and wasn't in position and got punished for it. The call there from Dignitas was to give it up, it felt like. And Hurriwind goes, yeah, maybe I can get some damage off here. And then Aurora just walks at him quickly and ults. And again, no one really there to save Hurriwind. Something to keep in mind, though, is that Aurora needs to be wary of when he's using those ultimates, because if a Trixtank is already transformed, he can break those walls with his auto attacks very, very quickly. That just hasn't really happened yet.
Fire Giant started, and, well, there's the change. Merlin, some Suns, some CycloneSpin as well. In comes a try. Qvofred sits down. Splyce now chasing Dignitas after the Fire Giant. The Magi's cloak is going to protect. Variety gets taunted. There's a little bit more damage, but not so much. And Splyce posts Fire Giant looking at the right side tower.
Really, I think Merlin's biggest value in Smite right now is how much damage he does to objectives.
I got to agree.
I think that's what makes that's what really separates him at this point.
Aurora looking to separate Hurriwind from his team, but this time gets peeled out. That said, the Zeus ultimate already used, and Variety is going to be on the other side. Moswal with the big boy damage, coming out number 3 overall. Cyno dash into the backline. Ataraxia gets hit by 4, but finds the ultimate to get out of there. The right side Phoenix falls down. Solo lane is no longer for Dignitas. Splyce will return to base and try one more time. At least their solo laner will. He'll come back to the fight after defending the left side Phoenix.
Good call by him, because this Phoenix would have fallen
to
this amount of archers and minions coming in, but they don't need them in mid. They'll get this tier 2 doubt Dignitas has a whole lot to say about it. Variety just not tanky enough to withstand how much damage Splyce was putting out. This game feels even more comp dependent than game 1. I think that Splyce just really identified Dignitas and what they were going to do with its composition, just really shut down. We talked about at the very beginning how much damage Zeus needed to do in this game in order to get a victory for Dignitas. And Hurriwind's done relevant damage, but just not even close to enough, because he's just been on the respawn and or so far back because he's so scared of stepping up, and for good reason. This comp just kills Zeus really well.
And even on that right side, Aror goes in and Dignitas do the best thing possible. They stun him before he's able to really affect Hurriwind, but Hurriwind already dropped the ultimate. And again, like we were saying with the slash line, not even a knock against the mid laner's play. That's what you're supposed to do. Cabrakan blinks on you, you drop the ultimate.
Yep.
But so what that does is, sure, Cabrakan doesn't get the kill, and they're able to walk away, but now the Zeus ult's on cooldown, and that's one of your better options when it comes to preventing an enemy siege. So whether you're getting the kill or not, Splyce are forcing Hurriwind to either play too safe or just die, and it's really been effective keeping him outside of the conversation.
Now Splyce has to try and break the base again, but again, Hurriwind hasn't been able to add a whole lot more damage since the last time, and we saw how little damage that lightning storm did to Divios when he came crashing in. Divios has 6 items. I mean, the only pen in Hurriwind's build is Obsidian Shard and Pen Boots. You're just not doing anything to him at this point. Your lightning storm will do very, very little to Divios at this position, so he doesn't really have to respect that AoE. The carries still do, but Divios and Aror really don't.
Fire Giant's still intact for a while, and the mid lane Phoenix will be the focus. That's a lot of damage on the back line. Variety falls down as he gets double tapped. And the jump from Aror keeps everyone else outside of the battle. Trixtank now jumping to the back line as the bird goes down. Ataraxia in trouble. Knocked up, but not on his own terms. Moswal with the last hit onto the Hunter. 6-1-7 for the mid lane Merlin. A little bit of regen aggro, and we're going to see a jump on the Titan.
Man, Cyclone and Moswal just played that fight so well into Variety. Variety blinked in and insta-died to the CC, and this Titan's going to do the exact same thing. Trixtank goes down to Divios as Splyce pull away the Titan from Qvofred and pull away here in Game 3, making it look easy in 28 minutes.
27 kills in those 28 minutes, and 20 of them were on Splyce's side. It was very interesting watching game number 1. Splyce very exuberant. Game number 2, Dignitas very exuberant. Game 3, Splyce realized, all right, we're here to work. We got one more game to take it. Just let's go ahead, hit the brake, come right on back. That's what Splyce is thinking. They want to stay locked in here.
Yeah, and they should, because this is where the adjustment from Dignitas was very, very good after a Game 1 loss. What's their adjustment going to be this time? I'd imagine it's not going to be an early Zeus pick. I don't think the Dignitas need to throw that pick away by any stretch. Sure. But early on, you probably can't afford to pick it. I mean, they even picked it and then banned away a couple picks that would have done well against it. The Hercules, the Hades that Splyce had been playing, and then they picked 2 gods that still work really well against it. But the Athena was already locked in, but it was really the Cabrakan for Aror that set Hurriwind up for a tough game.
It's tough. That's Dignitas sticking to their guns. They've played the Zeus very well. They've won games off of the Zeus. They trusted their instincts, and it was just Splyce that were one step ahead of them. 2-1 so far for the Yellow Snakes. We'll cut to the break. We'll cut to the desk, and we'll be back in a moment.
Yeah, that's right. Don't try and get rid of me. I saw my desk segment that's happening here. Finch and Tully after another big win for Splyce, and so far this set's been everything you could have wanted. They're now up 2-1 over Dignitas, and it really is such a difference in having Divios back in this team means, because I don't know if you can pick Athena Cabrakan and still have the other team not sure where that's going if it's not Divios over there.
Into the Hades, into the Athena.
It's so good.
The Season 1 meta is back, apparently, for Splyce and Divios. I love it. And because of the Athena and Cabrakan combination between Divios and Aror, it made Hurriwind's life a living hell.
It really did. There was no way for them to kill the Aror in particular. We were talking about his build like right towards the end, right? He had like Magai's cloak, Gauntlet of Thebes. He had a Relic Dagger, and it was the Onis that was critical in that, right? Because for the most part, he wasn't even that tanky, but the Onis and his passive gave him that extra protections and mitigation, and it was enough. They couldn't kill him when he would all-in hurry.
And that's the difference between playing the Hercules in the previous game, doing that build, versus the Cabrakan, is that passive from the Cabrakan, giving not only himself the mitigation, but also anyone around him. So so he was able to enable that build a little bit more effectively.
And it really worked for him. Trying to, I think, cut that same corner with Hercules' heal in that last game, it just wasn't quite as strong as I think the way that Kabrakan cuts it with that passive. And he really wasn't just Aror. Cyno opened up the door huge for this team with the way he played this Pele. He was constantly getting back there and finishing him off. If Hurriwind somehow got out with Aegis or a little bit of help coming out from Trix, then Cyno was going to go find him and hunt him down.
And the thing was, CycloneSpin going for this oboe between the double stuns from Aror, very easy to lock down. We forget just how much damage a Ho Yi can really do with Mark of the Golden Crow.
Yeah.
And also, the thing that made it a little bit easier for Aror on this Kabrakan is dealing with Qvofred's Ratatasker as opposed to the Circuit in the previous game.
I think a Circuit would have been a big problem for his build, and you were saying the same thing, and I thought you were so right when you said it. It would have been able to shred through this Kabrakan a little bit easier, and maybe not let him really cause so many problems for Hurriwind. Moswal's Merlin, too, was a big deal in this game. I mean, newsflash, Merlin does a lot of damage, but I think that Moswal is just really comfortable in this pick. They prioritized it. It's clearly something that he likes to play. We saw this with the Op Pwash towards the end of Season 5. When Moswal's feeling good in a god and having fun and looking this good on it, you get Moswal that god.
Yeah, and it was the aggressive front line as well between not only the Kabrakan and the Athena, but also Cyno's Pele was really popping off. I think he had a majority of the game was him being the top player damage. And then also, Ho Yi, not the most aggressive, but he controls a lot of space. So if it's only Moswal and CycloneSpin together in the backline, using that Ho Yi ultimate is going to bail both of them out.
It's usually strong enough, but here's Moswal showing all that damage that he could put out, man, on this Merlin pick. So now Dignitas had to make some adjustments, I feel like. I don't know if the Zeus is a problem by itself, or maybe just into this composition. They need to do a little bit more to protect this Zeus, something like that. Totally, is a picks and bans adjustment need to see from Dig or execution?
A little bit of picks and bans in Game 3 specifically. I like the picks and bans in Game number 2, but like a Zeus with a Fafnir and a Tier Ratatasker, not that much peel enabled for Hurriwind, and that's why he went 0-7 this game. He even had to opt for a defensive Height of the Urchin throughout the mid stages.
And that's another thing. I think it took a little too long for Hurriwind to get the pen online. We talked about that, right? He went Rod into Hootie and then third item Height of the Urchin. And that's another reason why Aurora was kind of able to stand inside the Lightning Storm for so long. But there was a fight that you and I talked about in particular. It was around the Gold Fury, and I think it's Variety that had Fearless 2 members.
Yes.
And then I was thinking that was a perfect fight. Qvo was going to come down. They're in the Lightning Storm. This should be some kills for them. What went wrong for them there, too?
So the problem for Qvofred and Variety was that as Qvofred was landing from through the Cosmos, they were still being juggled. Splyce was still being juggled by that Fearless.
Exactly.
So you're not going to be able to disrupt that and chain your CC. And on top of that, also, the overlap of the circle. As they were getting Fearless, it was towards the outer ring of the Lightning Storm. So they didn't get too much effectiveness through the Zeus detonate, because it only hit Aurora, I think, with 1, maybe 2 stacks of that passive.
So they didn't quite get enough. And that was a fight that I was thinking that if they could win that one, it looked like a really good fight for them. They could start to turn things. But instead, it just kind of helped Splyce keep that snowball going. So that's another thing. Just a couple pieces can be slightly not lined up, and you can end up losing a fight off the back of it and then losing some momentum. So that was another really big fight that ended up going Splyce's way. Maybe they got to make some adjustments, get some more help for the Zeus so that Hurriwind just doesn't get camped as much.
This is scary now for Dignitas because they are on the elimination game. This is their opportunity for Splyce now to give the first loss for Team Dignitas, and this would be a good comeback for them after they lost to Rival 1-3. Granted, it was without Divios as well, so there's a lot of strategies that have been changed from that previous set. But what a statement to make if you're Splyce now, up 2-1 in this best-of-5 set, about to close it out.
If they do close it out, I don't know what kind of better story that you could write. Like, they had so much time before they could play. Remember, it was they were here in January but didn't get to play until April. And then when they do play, they didn't have Divios there, so they end up having a tough set. But then as soon as that team's back at full force, we throw the best team that we have at them in Dignitas. And so far, they're answering it. I don't know if Dig has been down 2-1 yet. I know they've been to a Game 5, but have they been on this elimination game? I'm not so sure that they have. We got to see how they handle it.
That's right. Dignitas, they went to 5 up against Rival. Every other set was either 3 or 4 games, beating out Space Station Gaming, LG, and yesterday Pittsburgh Knights in 4 games. But I think that you can never count out Dignitas.
Qvo looks pretty calm, doesn't he?
Yeah. Maybe he just needs a little bit of a snack for this next game.
Maybe that's what it is. Just get fueled up and come back in. But Dignitas doesn't look like a team that's about to get eliminated. They look like a team that believes that, hey, a couple of things are off for us in that game, and that's it. We can definitely beat this Splyce team. But you have to wonder, for Trix, Qvo, and Variety in particular, how much of that world stuff is still hanging over their heads now, especially when they face elimination, right? Now they must be thinking, well, this is that team NB. This is them. This is that aura that they had back then at Worlds. Can we finally get past it?
Well, it is Hurriwind and Ataraxia as opposed to Zeros and Arkle from that previous Worlds match. So that could be the different factor that they need. Also having a little bit of a coach assistance from Big E between Season 5 and 6. The meta has changed quite significantly. Splyce isn't really doing the same meta before, where they would kind of lean Divios into the dual lane instead. They're kind of like mixing things up with Aror going into the solo lane.
That's right. They've got a lot of different stuff that they're willing to do. And the support starts is another interesting one that I'm glad you brought up, and that Splyce were happy to play around a little bit with and send them over to that solo lane, give some of that farm away to the Hunters, and like you were saying, try and see if they can confirm those blue buffs, get some pressure over there on that side.
And that also allows, I think, Dignitas to take advantage if they really want to, where Qvofred, I think in the first game, he got the blue buff and then he rotated right away to have more farm on his side of the map on that Ratatasker to get him that level 5 first.
Well, we're ready for the picks and bans now for game number 4. That's pretty good. That's the fastest we've ever gotten through those, totally.
Oh, wow.
Hard to do better than that. But certainly we'll get those ready for here in just a moment. But Dig now are going to be likely in the first pick selection, I would assume. When you lose, you do get to pick whether you're first or second, and likely they'll take first. And so that means they'll have some options. Remember, clearly Splyce don't want King Arthur, so they can kind of force them to ban that out and open up their path a little bit more.
I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see like a Guan Yu maybe from Divios now. If I'm thinking about like old school soul laners, like he brought out the Hades, he's brought out the Athena. He's got to bring out the Guan Yu as well.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if maybe Dignitas are thinking that they can let through that Yorm and force Splyce to beat them with it. It's been taken away every game so far, and it is kind of restricted them a little bit. I wonder if they feel like maybe they can try and take it.